Good morning. Welcome to the Shrink Tank Live Morning Show. I'm Jonathan Hetterly. I'm a licensed professional counselor here at Southeast Psych. And with me this morning is...
Hi, I am Beatrice Moise, also B. Moise, and I am the parenting coach here at Southeast Psych.
This is going to be great. Now, for those of you just tuning in, the cool thing about the Shrink Tank Morning Show is that a lot of times morning shows, talk shows, they'll bring in an expert to talk about mental health or other trending issues, where we have the entire show where the hosts are always mental health professionals.
Yay.
So in some ways we can provide just our own personal opinions, but a lot of times it's about engaging what's going on in the culture through a mental health lens. Now, and this is going to be a great show because B, you and I both like to talk.
Yes, we do.
And B, you and I both have opinions about almost everything.
Yes, we do.
But the great thing is we both really try to be thoughtful about our opinions and be able to kind of answer the why we think and feel the way that we do.
Right, to the best of our abilities.
Yes, our limited abilities.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a great show because I'm very interested in the three topics that we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about celebrity mental health advocates this year. There's a vote, there's a poll out to cast the champion of 2019. We're going to talk about this Peloton commercial that everybody's talking about, and I think there's a lot of different responses and reactions to it. I'm really interested to hear yours.
I'm super excited to get into that one. I really want to talk about it.
And then it just makes sense if I'm going to be on this episode that we talk about the Gabrielle Union controversy with America's Got Talent and the whole racially insensitive Asian joke that allegedly Jay Leno made.
Right.
That maybe has sparked all of this controversy with her firing.
And I feel like I'm the right person to address the Asian joke situation.
Absolutely.
I feel like that should definitely...
I'm going to lob
that should
softball.
definitely be something that falls upon me. So I got you guys. I'm on it.
Now, before we get started, I want to just highlight that I'm wearing this very cool shirt, and it says, "Break the Stigma." And this is something we are passionate about. And you can purchase these shirts to be a great holiday gift here, but also it's a way that you can show support for those that struggle with mental health, mental illness, that we're really trying to break the stigma, normalize it, not look down on people or assume that it's a character defect of any sort.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna provide a link in the comments of how you can purchase this shirt, or just visit the Shrink Tank website for that.
Absolutely. And if you want to purchase me one, I'm a size small. Just saying, put that out there for whoever's listening.
I'm the type of person where the sizes of clothes is never ideal. So it's like smalls are too tight, mediums are like sleeping bags, and I just have to make an educated guess of basically
where you land.
Yeah, if it's going to be baggy or snug.
You probably need like your own professional seamstress. Like you need to kind of walk around with someone that can tailor all your outfits. I think that's what you should be working on for 2020.
Well, I generally go with small because I mean, with all this ripped muscle, like why hide it in bagginess, right?
All facts. 100%. Seriously. This is 100% accuracy right now.
I mean, I am the Asian Rock. You know, right?
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking, Jonathan, Asian Rock.
Asian Rock.
I was thinking that.
But what you
or
weren't,
Van Diesel.
But what you weren't thinking is I was actually thinking of the movie star. You're just thinking of an actual rock. Jonathan's as dangerous as a beachside pebble.
Agreed, but
Well, there you go.
There you go.
But let's pivot and let's talk about the champion of mental health.
Yeah.
And this is something that Shrink Tank has been doing for about 4 years now,
Yep.
where at the end of the year, we as a team, we kind of survey the past year and look at celebrities that have been using their platform to really advocate mental health awareness, lower the stigmatization around mental health, and oftentimes share their own personal experiences and stories. And so this year we have 5 nominees that we want people to kind of cast their vote on. We already have over 500 votes. I'm going to briefly mention 2 celebrities and why they made the list, and then you're going to speak on a couple in particular, and then I'm going to speak on who I voted for. So let's first talk about one of our nominees is Lizzo. And Lizzo, she made this list because she has used her platform this year. First of all, she has just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes.
And with that, she's used it as an opportunity to talk about body positivity, about self-love, about fierce feminine acceptance. It's really inspired millions of people. She's frequently using her Instagram stories to talk about her mental health struggles. She's quoted in one of them. She said, "I've used sadness so constructively in the last 2 years after working on being emotionally honest. I've used sadness as a tool for gratitude. It's humbling, and I'm grateful that I'm able to feel these emotions because I know that because of the sadness, I'm going to be able to feel joy.
Yeah.
And it's been remarkable the impact that Lizzo has had with young people and music lovers about the platform that she's bringing to body positivity and just emotional intelligence. So that's Lizzo. Now let me talk a little bit about Common briefly. Common makes the list because this Golden Globe, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar-winning, multi-talented artist is a huge mental health advocate. He has been spotlighted this year through his dedication to educating the world on the importance of preventative self-care, the advantages of therapy, and the benefits of acknowledging your inner truth without shame. He's been very candid when he talks about his relationship avoidance, struggle with his daughter, and his history of childhood molestation. He's been very honest about these, confronting these issues in therapy, and after years of dismissing them, he's helping to reduce the stigma of mental health care for many, especially men or men of color.
Yeah. And I do love those two, but I have particular fondness to Chrissy Teigen.
All right, tell me about Chrissy Teigen.
Chrissy Teigen, first of all, I think her husband, John Legend, looks like my husband, but that's just...
So you really have a fondness also of John Legend.
Of John Legend, because I think he looks like my husband. Maybe we should kind of have a split screen of my husband, Ruben, and John Legend. I think we should try and see how that looks.
Yeah, I wonder if Chrissy somewhere is saying, you know what, John, you kind of look like B. Moise's husband, Ruben.
That's totally a thing.
Yeah.
But definitely Chrissy Teigen, she has been such a huge advocate for postpartum depression and just kind of like what women go through, what a lot of, my mommy friends have gone through just after having babies and not knowing, how to use, those hormones to be appropriate. Like, you just don't know, like, how you're going to feel about it after you have a kid. So one of the things she wrote is, I wish I had known that postpartum depression can happen to anyone because I didn't think that it could happen to me. Here I was with my perfect little Luna and his supportive husband, yet I was truly struggling. That's what she said. So I definitely think Chrissy Teigen, huge advocate for mental health. Love her. Follow her, so hopefully she follows me, Chrissy. Taraji P Henson, love her as well. And we've had a lot of buzz in the African American community about mental health because there's stigma for advocating for that as well.
Yeah.
Like, it is not something that we're vocal about, like we're supposed to be tough, especially African American women. We have this stigma about being tough and handling it all and being able to do everything without ever showing weakness, which would be mental health issues is weakness. So Taraji P Henson is another one who is out here doing some great and wonderful things. She has this foundation called the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation to aid in reducing the stigma around mental health and treatment in the Black community. So definitely Taraji, another one of my faves.
So who's going to be your vote?
Oh gosh, it's just
you
so
gotta
hard.
vote.
I have to vote. I would probably go for Chrissy. I would definitely, channel some mommy power in there and go for Chrissy Teigen.
Yeah. Does she really need to win this? I mean, she's married to the sexiest man alive.
She is. Who also looks like my husband. So technically my husband is the sexiest man alive, but go ahead.
No, but the great thing about Chrissy is that she is a celebrity and an advocate, and on her own merits.
Yes.
On her own talents and her merits, and she's using that platform. She has her own platform.
Yeah.
I would say sometimes her platform has exceeded John Legend's.
I would agree. I would agree.
I mean, if anybody's hanging on the coattails of somebody else, the sexiest man alive is hanging on the coattails of his wife.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
It happens.
Now let me talk
What's
about
your vote?
I'm going to talk about my vote, Bill Hader, because I'm a huge Bill Hader fan. I followed him since Saturday Night Live. He has this character, Stefan, who I think is one of the funniest comedic creations. Yeah. And it follows my love for his collaborator, John Mulaney, who helped write and create that character. And if you watch Bill, he's so sharp as a comedian, but then you listen to him in interviews, and you can see that this is a guy that has anxiety, and he's been very open and vocal about it. And this past year he was on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and he talked about how the impact of doing live improv comedy television is basically the absolute worst thing you could do for somebody that had anxiety, to the point where it led him to seek out therapy, seek out meditation at other points. He's done other interviews written as well as video where he's talked about he's really cut out drinking, cut out drugs, that he's really having to make these choices to manage his mental health and his anxiety. And he did this video for the Child Mind Institute. It really went viral on all the social media platforms, where he was asked, what would you tell your younger self? And so he talked about anxiety, and one of the things that he was really honest with was that he would tell his younger self that the anxiety is never going to go away, that it's learning about managing it. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with when there's so much more awareness and conversations around anxiety and mental health.
Right.
But a lot of people still just want it to go away. They want that quick fix. And Bill Hader's sending that message that you can learn to live with anxiety. But it's really about managing it, and it's really about committing to it.
Right. Finding appropriate coping skills. Learning how you manage your anxiety, whether it's through exercise, meditation, yoga, talking to someone. It doesn't matter, but just finding what works for you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he's kind of like showcasing, that it doesn't have to be this debilitating thing that makes you stay in your corner and that doesn't allow you to fully live your best life, but just coming out there and figuring out, how do I cope with this? Like, it is a part of me, and how do I handle this thing that is a part of who I am?
Yeah, and it's great that a lot of these celebrities are talking about mental health advocacy and awareness in the present tense. So in the past, you would have the autobiography come out, and they would say, I had been depressed, and I had sought out therapy, but I'm not doing it anymore. So they become open about it when it's no longer a part of their ongoing story.
That's a very good and valid point, and I like that you brought that up, because it is so present. And I think one of the best things that we've had in social media is the ability to see what someone is going through currently, because we can so easily put up this facade or this picture of how perfect life can look and how it could appear. But in the same, picture that Chrissy is taking a picture of, perfect family selfie, she's also saying, I am depressed. I am struggling. Like, I do not know how to handle this mommy thing. It's hard for me. So it's definitely a good way now that we're using social media, and they're using their platforms to say, this is currently happening. I'm still dealing with it. I'm handling it, and it's not over. It's not something that I've dealt with and now I've moved on, but it's something I'm currently, struggling with as well.
Absolutely.
So I like that point.
So you voted for Chrissy.
Yep.
I voted for Bill, but we need you guys to vote. Who do you think deserves the crown as the champion of mental health for 2019?
Yeah.
We are going to link the poll. Tell your friends, share about it. Who do you want to win? I think Bill Hader is currently in the lead, but with you all voting, that could quickly change. We know who you want. So
let's vote it for Chrissy.
that's right. Get your following, get your peeps to vote for that.
Come on, mommies out there.
Brandon's looking at us.
Can you go over the nominees one more time for everybody?
Sure. We have the nominees are Lizzo, Bill Hader, Common, Chrissy Teigen, and Taraji P Henson.
Yep.
That is a solid lineup.
Yep.
All right, so with that now, let's pivot on some things that are really more recent.
Yeah.
Pivot! And both of them really are about controversies. And
Yeah.
anytime something controversial is hitting the national conversation, it's so easy to reduce it to kind of overreaction, not particular thoughtful conversation about it. Or everybody circles their own tribes, and then it becomes a larger issue in terms of demographics and representations. But one of the things that I've been seeing here just explode is this conversation and controversy around this Peloton commercial. And I'll be honest, I saw this commercial on Thanksgiving Day while I'm watching football, because that's all I do all Thanksgiving Day is just watch football.
This is a very stereotypical comment that he just made right now.
It totally
He's
is.
a guy watching football on Thanksgiving.
I can be stereotypical about me, right? You cannot.
Just so we're clear, disclosure.
But talk to me a little bit about kind of the commercial itself, and then some of the controversy you've heard. But then I'm really interested to get your particular take on it.
So the commercial basically is about this husband who purchased a Peloton for his wife for Christmas. And she, is kind of like, I guess vlogging. I think it's vlogging. Like, she's vlogging, her daily routine with this Peloton and things like that. So that's the commercial. Husband purchased a Peloton for his wife. That's
Yeah, it's a 30-second
It's
commercial.
a 30-second commercial. It's very short. Some of the uproar about it is, basically, why would a husband purchase, an exercise equipment for his wife? What is he trying to tell her? Like what is he saying? Men shouldn't be in charge of women's health or physical appearance, not health, physical appearance or something like that. So there's been a lot of feedback and talk and, negative vibes about it. So that's kind of like what I've been hearing.
So then, what's your take on the controversy?
So here's my take on it.
And B, I wanna say this out loud because I know you need this encouragement. I want you to not hold back, B. Okay, this is an opportunity to. I want to hear your opinion.
I will try.
As a very meek person with not a lot of opinions.
I will try.
Kind of tell me how you really feel.
I will do my best.
Okay.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Now, not to say that anyone who's viewed this commercial it might have elicited a particular feeling for that person. You're not ridiculous. But, just as an overall broad personal opinion, I do think it's ridiculous because husbands get wives basically what we've been nagging at.
Let's use first person. Let's use B and her sexiest man alive look-alike husband.
That's right, my sexiest husband.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see this as, I'll give you an example. So last Christmas, my husband got me a Keurig machine. And the reason that he got this for me was because I am an avid tea drinker. Like, I drink 4 to 5 cups of tea every day.
Okay.
And I started to complain about, I have to warm up the tea. I can't believe I'm warming up this tea thing again. Like, I would just complain about it.
These first world problems we have to figure out every day.
I gotta put the microwave on 3 minutes. Oh, that's too hot. 4 minutes. Like, I was trying to figure out although 3 minutes and 30 seconds, that's the one. I figured it out. But I complain about, making tea every day. Like, it was just this thing. So for Christmas, my husband got me a Keurig machine and a whole thing of tea. And I was like, yay, this is like the best gift ever. Like, I was super excited. So I don't really see that being any different than, again, 2 years prior to that, I started this health kick of, wanting to be healthier, wanting to be in charge of my health, wanting to have a personal investment into my health, not just mental, emotional, but also physical health.
Sure.
I don't see that as being any different, like if he was to get me that because I'm on a health journey.
Yeah.
And from the commercial, that's what it appears to be, because she's vlogging it, how some days she doesn't feel like going to the gym or how she doesn't feel like doing the Peloton, but she still does it anyway. And apparently, I think you can like attach it to your internet or something where you can kind of talk back and forth, so you're like in a class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like
This is highfalutin.
Yeah, like it's high tech stuff.
Equipment.
So I don't see how that's a negative thing for a husband to give that to his wife, especially since I think we don't know the conversation behind it.
Sure.
I think what people would have wanted would have been like a background story of her complaining about wanting this thing and then him purchasing it. But overall...
Yes, because that's what everybody wants, a longer Peloton commercial.
Yeah, the
right?
30 seconds just was not...
No.
It didn't do it. So, I mean, my personal take on it is it's ridiculous. The husband got an exercise bike for his wife. She's happy. Can we just applaud the man for getting something she actually wanted? Can we do
Well, I watched the commercial on Thanksgiving, and I see it's a Peloton. I'm like, well, never going to afford that. So I just kind of move on, probably went and got a snack. But then I rewatched it here, knowing that we were going to talk about it and knowing kind of where you landed on that. And the commercial itself really feels benign. It really feels benign. It feels like a commercial. You're trying to sell something and sell an image or a lifestyle. And I think in that 30 seconds, it really does. Here's what I suspect. There's two things I think are probably happening that's creating this uproar. One is that we are in a cultural conversation right now where we globalize outrage. Right?
Yes.
So we amplify and we universalize.
Yes.
And that's really, I think, part of what we're struggling with as a culture of a reduction of empathy,
Yes.
right? That ability to step in somebody else's perspective and see things. So it's like we universalize everything, and then it's an uproar, and we use our platforms to create a movement of criticism, a movement of judgment. So I think that's, to me, that makes sense why this is happening, because it's happening beyond just Peloton and this commercial.
Exactly.
Now, for the commercial itself, I would suspect that some of the uproar, criticism, or why it continues to live on is just flat out projection. There are some couples and there are some relationships where they don't have that clear communication that you and your husband, you guys talk about. And so they're thinking about their own relationships,
Right.
their own spouses or partners.
Right.
And it is sending a negative
Right.
connotation
Right.
in a very passive aggressive
Right.
sort of way. And so for those that feel that's present in their own relationship, I could easily see this Peloton commercial and be like, just one more instance where a man is just kind of giving something that seems like an unconditional gift, but it's really sending some type of message or
right.
criticism.
Right.
And we know that's true, but again, you have to take it on a case by case basis.
Right.
And that's one of the challenges. You're a parenting expert. One of my areas is doing couples. And it's just kind of unpacking all of those passive aggressive and avoidant ways that they talk about important things. And yeah, sending messages through gift giving and subtle messages that really are about conflict avoidance
Right.
or criticism that really
Right.
is invalid is a huge way. That's a really expensive way to send a message, though, right? A Peloton.
Yeah, it looks expensive.
So and quite honestly, in this commercial, and this is intentional misreading. But if that husband thinks his wife needs to work on her fitness and health, then she needs to leave that guy, because they both are just gorgeous people, right? So and that may be something also that unintentionally Peloton is getting wrapped up in, because when people start criticizing, it snowballs, right?
Right.
And so this, I don't think, is the main criticism that we've heard levied at this commercial, but just this unrealistic body image of what what we have to aspire to
Be right.
right? Because you said like the woman doesn't really need it, and
Right.
it's exactly
Right.
doesn't need it. But if your husband still gives you this fitness
Right.
piece of exercise equipment because he's sending a critical message,
Exactly.
then yes. But again, we're injecting this narrative that's
Right.
not
We have
there.
exactly, because again, we don't have the background story. I mean, I think if anything, what it showcased is how big of an issue we are having with communication and relationship. I mean, that's kind of like what I'm hearing, because we're making this assumption that there was no communication prior to.
Sure.
Like there was no conversation prior to. There was no feedback of any sort prior to that might have led him to make this purchase. So we're assuming that this guy just went off on his own, got this thing for her, and then also adding an additional, because he thinks she either needs to stay that size or maybe become smaller. I don't know, or whatever it may be. But it's really more of I think we're projecting communication issues, like as a whole. Like, okay, this couple may not have communication issues. They may
Sure.
be discussing things daily, and that might be why, he purchased that.
And you brought up one more piece that I think we're seeing in our culture. I see this all the time in individual therapy, and folks with anxiety or depression is assuming the worst.
Yes.
You make
yes.
assumptions, but it's not just make assumptions. It's a big struggle for a lot of people to assume the best, right? It's always, not always, but it's often you assume the worst, and then you make that assumption into truth. And then that really activates your thoughts, feelings, and your behaviors when you're working on partial information or erroneous information. So good stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Peloton commercial. If you think it's kind of relatively benign and harmless like B and I do, or if you found it quite offensive and appalling, kind of share your thoughts and why you took it that way.
Yeah, because I'm curious. Like, I would actually like to hear someone who took it in a different way and what's feeding that.
Yeah.
Because we have our opinions on it, but I'm also basing it off my relationship. Like I'm basing the commercial off, well, if my husband did this is why he would, and you also are probably doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm curious too, so I want to hear about it.
We definitely want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Now let's pivot again. And let's talk about this. And this controversy, like the Peloton, just seems to be growing. I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon. It's all of this chatter surrounding Gabrielle Union and her leaving America's Got Talent and what sort of spilled out in the aftermath of that.
Right.
And so for those of you that aren't familiar, is that it was recently announced that Gabrielle Union and Julianne Hough were not going to be returning as guests. And then I think the next day there was a report coming out of Variety that talked about some of the issues that maybe were going on behind the scenes this past season with America's Got Talent. In one specifically it mentioned was that Gabrielle was a part of, is it Gabrielle or Gabrielle? I want to make sure.
Gabrielle Union,
I just want to be sure.
Because she's listening.
That's right.
And we want to
Hi,
make
Gabrielle.
sure.
And make sure you have your hubby, Dwayne Wade, shout us out as well.
We would love that.
But she heard about supposedly this very uncomfortable and insensitive incident where guest host Jay Leno remarked about I think it was a photo or a painting on the wall of Simon Cowell with his dogs, and he is a massive dog lover. And basically, Jay Leno made an off-the-cuff remark or joke about that's something he would expect to see in a Korean restaurant. And supposedly, allegedly, that there were several employees, including one that was Asian, that were uncomfortable and offended by that.
Right.
And now Gabrielle wasn't there, but when she heard about this,
Right.
she really urged people to report it to HR,
Right.
to take
Speak
action.
up,
Basically speak up. And although that clip, that segment was cut out of the episode that Jay Leno was guest appeared on, nothing ever came to HR or
Nothing
anything.
came of it.
And so you had that. You also had reports that Gabrielle and Julianne were constantly given notes about their appearance and hair, things of that nature. And then the other is that there just seems that the response from NBC or the response from AGT has been that they pride themselves in inclusivity.
Right.
There is an investigation that now has been opened on it. But there's also this weird metric that they continue to swap out the female judges, and they
Right.
kind of stay within this certain age demographic,
Right.
while it's not as though Howie Mandel and Simon Cowell are getting any younger,
Right.
both in age or in how they look. I'm wondering if they're giving them some
Right. If
tips
they're
on how
getting
they
any
look.
type of pushback or any type of, hey, can you, your gray hair, can we
Yeah.
do something about that? Like, I doubt that they are. Not that I know, but I don't think that they are. But I think that's the bigger piece, of just, the men are aging, and again, men age finely, apparently, while the women are being replaced with younger versions of, of themselves or something like that. But they're just kind of replacing the women with a younger person, as opposed to, hey, let's get, Oprah.
Well, and the interesting thing is I'm not entirely sure that they're replacing them with younger women, but just the starting point. It's this age of 30s to 40s. I think Gabrielle Union's 47, which you would never guess.
No, you would not.
But I think it's a larger entertainment issue where
Global, yeah.
where the male celebrities, they tend to be at whatever age and stage, and there's always this kind of this huge or noticeable age gap.
Right.
It's what I tend to call the Tom Cruise phenomenon, right?
Right.
Tom Cruise is getting older, but always his romantic partners or his female sidekicks in his movies, they all stay within a certain age range, and they kind of have to stay in a certain height range too.
Or camera trick.
Exactly. But this idea of like constantly swapping out the female hosts,
Right.
or judges, but the men tend to be long-standing staples. Sort of, does it kind of communicate that they're more disposable?
I mean, it definitely, I can say, like, as a woman, like, you're constantly being fed this subliminal or, this message of you're not good enough. You need to look younger or thinner or something. Like, there's just this constant message that you're being fed. And when you look at, entertainment industry, and you're looking at them like, not only do I feel this way, but I am seeing messages from the my television that I should be feeling this way. Like, I am not enough. I am not young enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not this enough. So I definitely think entertainment is not helping, with the stereotypes and some of the, issues that women go through just as part of aging. I mean, we were having a fascinating conversation before all this started with Brandon here about women and aging and things like that. So it's just one of those things where this is not helping that situation. Like, it's not adding to our cause of acceptance as a whole.
Yeah, and to see you as a whole person rather than really just hyper focus on physical appearance and the societal norms of what they consider to be beauty.
Right.
Now, we can't really address this Gabrielle Union controversy without talking about the elephant in the room, or the dogs in the room for this situation, which is racially insensitive humor.
Right.
And I'm really glad that we're getting to talk about this, because we both have sharp humor. I think we have high tolerance for pushing the boundary.
Yeah, maybe too high.
But this really speaks to, how to use humor. When is it crossing a line? When is it personal? When is it really a case of letting something go, and that humor, even if it's broaching maybe controversial or insensitive topics, can be benign and it's not speaking to a larger racial problem. And so whether it's this alleged joke that Jay Leno made, or just racially charged humor in and of itself, what do you make of that, and what's going on in our larger society right now?
I mean, I think right now we're just a very racially sensitive culture. Like, there's just a lot that is being discussed, talked about from people in positions that are very vocal about certain things. So it's just a very sensitive time. I do have a different, I guess, my baseline for racial jokes or any type of humor in general, because I use humor a lot. I use humor as a form of healing. I'm extremely sarcastic. I'm working on it. So it's just...
She's not. That is the first lie in this morning show.
So it's definitely like, humor to me is it's an expression.
Sure.
And I grew up with Jay Leno. So, and I mean, I know a lot of his jokes were being written by someone, but, just kind of like baseline, I get his jokes, and I know it may not necessarily have a malice intent behind it. And I think also when you play to a stereotype and you kind of like overgeneralize that stereotype, and you make a joke about a stereotype that, a population, an ethnic population may be sensitive to, how much of that can you get away with saying? Like, can you say it and go, well, I guess they're just going to have to sit with it and kind of, and, go from there? Or can you say it and go, it's just a joke? Sure. Like, a lot of things to me are just jokes. But if it does elicit a particular feeling, again, back to the mental health aspect, whenever something touches on something, this is when you need to go, why am I feeling this way about this thing?
Sure.
And who can I talk to about this feeling, this emotion that I'm feeling about it? Like, if someone comes up to me and say, you suck at this parenting thing, my response would be, I probably do. Because it's not something I'm sensitive about. I seek help when I need it, although I do parenting, but I have a lot of colleagues who can help me and kind of navigate that world. Yeah. But I can go to help and get that. But if a mom is struggling and someone make a comment about, do you have this? Like, are you sure you're handling this okay? Yeah. That's going to elicit something from her, like, how dare you question my parenting, and how dare you do this, and how dare you do that. So I think we just kind of have to give ourselves like an emotional, like a mental health, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of give yourself a feel for, where am I mentally right now? Like, where is my mental health? Like, check your mental health status. When something elicits this emotional response based on what someone said that was probably benign, but you feel this way, I think it's best to check your mental health and think, where am I, and who can I reach out to kind of, figure out how to handle this response that I'm feeling internally. Yeah.
One of the things I really appreciate about Gabrielle in this situation, or at least these allegations, or what's kind of leaking out in reports, is that she went to the people that maybe were upset or offended by this, and she encouraged them to report it. And basically what she was providing for them is that you don't have to be afraid.
Right.
And she's a powerful person. She's a celebrity on that. She's not just one of the tech people that
Right.
I'm going to have your back.
Right.
You don't need to be afraid if you're uncomfortable by something that was said. And in a lot of ways, that's the only way we can kind of learn and grow and police ourselves, is if we get the feedback of things that makes other people uncomfortable. It's not necessarily, I can't speak, with certainty, but it's not necessarily to rebuke Jay Leno or to
Right,
criticize, but
right.
to bring awareness.
Right.
But a lot of times people, they worry about if they report something that makes them uncomfortable, are they going to be labeled overly sensitive, doesn't have a
Right.
sense of humor,
Right.
right? If it's a female employee of the show versus a guest celebrity that is universally known.
Right.
And so that power differential for Gabrielle to step in and say, listen, if you're upset by this, if you're uncomfortable by this, I want you to feel like you can speak up, because
Right.
your voice matters, and having a workplace culture and environment that's safe it's crucial. It's so important.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, in terms of like offensive humor, racially charged humor, I mean, let's just be honest. You and I banter
All the
right?
time,
But
yeah.
you and I know each other.
Exactly.
And I know where your heart is.
Exactly.
And I know what your character is.
Right.
And I've fooled you enough to where you think you know where my heart and character is. And
did a
so
good
I
job.
feel very free and open to be
Right.
myself and to push the boundaries with you, and that it's not meant to denigrate or dehumanize.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes people struggle with, is that, the knowing your audience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Knowing your audience, as well as the reality of what I'm allowed to say and get away with because
Right.
I'm an Asian
Person.
American
Right.
about Asian jokes versus
Right.
others. And we actually talked about this on one of our podcast episodes recently, where we talked about the recent film Jojo Rabbit, which is about a little kid who's in Hitler's youth army, and they play Nazis and Hitler for jokes in that. And we talked about how do you use humor around sensitive or potentially offensive topics. And for me, when it comes to me joking about being an Asian, right?
Right.
I do it all the time, right? What do Asians use for sunglasses? Dental floss, right? Just things of that nature, right?
Right.
What do you
I
call
can laugh because I know him.
Yeah, what do you call special ed Asian? A B student. It's just, but here's the thing.
Right.
How I view my using racially charged humor about Asian culture is it's one of the ways I take the power away from others about it.
Absolutely.
And that's a really unique, and it's a very true aspect that a lot of times people don't recognize. So when somebody that doesn't know me, somebody that's Caucasian or different ethnicity uses that, they're taking that power away from me, and they think that they have an inherent right to that power.
Right.
And they don't.
Right.
They don't, unless we have this relationship where
Right.
I understand why they're using the humor and what they do and do not mean by it. But when you use humor that can be sort of a little bit racially charged, when I use humor about Asian culture, it's my using that power that I have.
Exactly. And I definitely agree with the whole power aspect. It's basically when we of a minority group or a minority sector, if we are using a word, a term, a joke, or stereotype, and we're using it within our own culture, within our own circle, and also whomever we've allowed into that circle as well, that's again us taking the power and having the ability to do with it what we will. Now, I do understand that, looking and the majority looking in, thinking, well, why can't we do the same?
If you do that, how come when I do it, it's wrong?
Like, why is that a problem? Well, again, there's a reason why it's the majority versus the minority. So just those two words alone lets you know there's a majority of you and then there's a minority of us. So there's just, the amount that we have, we're working with and we're building and trying to create in our community and within, our ethnic group, that you don't have the same struggles.
Sure.
You don't have the same thing. So it's not the same. So if a majority is making a comment on a minority group or minority sector, they really have to think about how will this be perceived. Again, knowing your audience, like who are you speaking to?
Because even if I have that power, if Brandon or someone else came up to me and they heard me joking about Asian culture, and they were upset by it, they were uncomfortable by it, then it's not my place to tell them that it's just a joke, that they need to toughen up. It's really an opportunity, which again, I think we need to promote in our culture and in this time, examining your own heart and what I have control over. I don't have control over other people's sense of humor. No. I have control over my use of it, my intent behind it, and that's certainly something that goes back to this concept of an internal locus of control.
Absolutely.
And we are in a culture right now of external locus of control.
Absolutely.
People want everything else and other people to change to meet what they deem acceptable and comfortable and right and true.
Absolutely. And it's not just, within the racial stereotypes we're talking about, even in factors of age. We were having a conversation in Shrink Tank, shrinktank.com. We were having a conversation, and I made a statement about, those millennials. I cannot stand the millennials. They're just lazy. Boomer. They don't do this. They don't do that. And Sean, one of our I love you, Sean, made a statement to me, and he was like, you're a millennial. And I'm like, wait a minute. What? Me? I'm like, wait, I think you're wrong. And then so he was like, yes, you're part of that group that you do not like. And all of a sudden, my whole mindset
changed, huh?
Oh, those millennials, we are killing it.
That us versus them,
yeah,
right?
That us versus them. When I became them, I just thought, and he was like, you've been a millennial. Like, I don't know what you were thinking. And I'm like, it's 20-year-olds. That's it. Like, that was a millennial to me, just 20-year-olds. Like, I didn't give it any.
That's true. 10, 15 years ago, B. Okay.
Sorry, my math is not good. I am not Asian. I can make that joke.
Oh, wow. This show's gonna go viral, but I can't guarantee for the right reasons.
But no, it changed my perspective. Like, it totally made me see it differently. But again, so it's not just race, it's age. It's just so many different things that gender, like, it's just not knowing your audience, being sensitive, and really being a part of what is that, ethnic group feeling, or those kids or that age or whatever. Just what are they feeling? Like, where are they?
Yeah. Man, you and I, we could talk forever,
like ever,
right?
Yeah.
Again, when you have an opinion off, right? Two people that are like, I have a point of view on this matter, but we really want to hear from you all.
Yes.
Again. Talk to us about your thoughts and feelings about the whole America's Got Talent, Gabrielle Union controversy. We also want to hear from you about the Peloton commercial. Are you going to be getting your wife a Peloton for Christmas? And are you going to be seeking out a divorce attorney 6 months later? And then we certainly want you to cast your vote of who you think is deserving of the Champion of Mental Health of 2019.
Yep.
Also be on the lookout for the Break the Stigma t-shirt. We really want to highlight mental health awareness. Break the stigma.
Absolutely.
We want it to be normalized, acceptable. Everybody has problems.
Because
everybody can work on being a better version of themselves.
Absolutely.
And we need to support one another with that.
Absolutely.
Well, B, this has been great. This has been
awesome.
fun.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, this was really cool.
The only thing awkward is that we just have some cameras on.
I know, it's a
and
little
a
weird.
funny bearded guy back
there. Yeah, in the
there.
background, just kind of looking at us.
So be sure to check out the rest of our content on Shrink Tank YouTube and our website as well.
Shrinktank.com.
Until next time, for Be Moist, I'm Jonathan Hetterly. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.